Okay. Something may be weird here. Let me see if this is working. Okay. Now, I'm not sure why my chat screen isn't showing up. Hey, Max. I made some changes here, and I'm trying to find out why. All right, hold on. Sorry, I tried to make some changes because my stream was really laggy, and I wanted to be able to have a better quality video, which seems to be working. So now, but a few things changed on my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. I don't know why things are a little different on my screen than they usually are. So I'm just trying to make sure that everything's actually working. Let me see. I don't know why. Okay. All right. Looks like we're working. Okay. All right. I think this is much better quality. Hey, Supernova. So I made some changes and I watched some videos and I tried to figure out the lagging issues. So this should be much better than my previous live streams have been. Please let me know. I just checked from my phone from a different account and it looks like I'm coming through loud and clear. So I'm hoping that's the case. I just want to double check. Normally I would have this all checked. Wow, this is the first time doing a live stream and like having it be green saying like everything's good. So I'm kind of excited about that. I think I finally figured something out. So the only thing that's a little different for me is the normally on my screen, the way it shows things, like the actual video and the chat and stuff, it's a little bit different than normal, but I think that is okay. Just, can you guys who are here, just let me know that, like, it's clear, video's good. From my end it is. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. I think there is a bit of a delay that I haven't been able to fix, but, you know, hey, little changes. So I'm going to wait a few minutes, just chat with you guys, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I am going to talk about. It's clear, no lag that I can see. That is beautiful news. I watched I watched some tutorials and made a whole lot of changes in the Streamlabs OBS that I use, and I changed like a whole bunch of settings, and this should work better with the internet that I have. So hopefully this keeps up, and that also means that for future videos like with trivia tomorrow and stuff like that, we should have a much, much better quality stream, which is good. So I'm really excited. The only thing I'm bummed out about is that normally on my screen, and I'm sure it's just when I mess with settings, I have to find a way to get it back. I usually have the, where I can see, like, very clearly how many subscribers I have that are talking, you know, like, that are watching, like, how many people are watching, what's going on. I can see it in, like, a little thing in the corner of my screen. It's just normally bigger, but really the thing I wanted to fix was the lag. Hey, Straight Talking for George, good evening. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Danny. Thank you guys so much for joining. So I put out on Twitter a little earlier, and I'll read you. I let people know that I was going to go live, and let me move so my face doesn't get covered by this chat box. Okay, so I let people know I was going to go live and ask people, like, what do you want to hear me talk about? Do you have any questions? Like, what can we chat about? And I got a really, really great response. And I wanted to, sorry, I'm pulling up Twitter and seeing everybody excited about the live stream. So thank you guys always for always thank you guys so much for like sharing when I go live, like sharing that on Twitter, sharing that. Your guys' support means like the world to me. I mean, you already know that because I tell you all the time, but thank you. Like it really does mean a lot. So I wrote, let's see, I asked people, where did it go? Gosh, I get so many notifications. Like I don't realize how many notifications I actually get on Twitter. Okay, here we go. So I asked on Twitter what you guys would like to chat about, if anybody had an idea, and normally, except for when I do trivia, most of my live streams are all recovery based. And so I said, what would you guys like to talk about? Did you have any questions? And Becky, who on Twitter is at Reba Bitch. So that's at REEBABITCH, and her name is Becky. And don't worry, I asked her permission to share that. I'm sharing that with you because I think it's awesome that she responded to my tweet and she gave me a suggestion for our topic. So we're going to use it. And when I asked what to talk about, this is what she said. She said, stigma of our disease. The basic text says social acceptability does not equal recovery. And lately, I've been feeling like recovery does not equal social acceptability. So, first off, what does that mean? So, when she's talking about the basic text, what she's referring to is NA literature. But we can have this discussion without talking about NA at all. So, the idea is that a lot of people, when they first get clean, associate social acceptability, which is, fitting in society, right? Getting a job, getting, having money in your bank account, having relationships with people, as equaling recovery, right? And it's really important that we recognize that just because we get things back in life when we stop using it doesn't mean that we're living a life of recovery, right? Recovery is so much more than that. And so it's really important for us as addicts to remember that just because we are now accepted socially, right? Like we're fitting into society, doesn't mean that doesn't directly equal recovery. But what she pointed out, and we can talk about both sides of it, but what she pointed out is that uh, recovery doesn't necessarily equal social acceptability either. So what does that mean? Well, for a lot of us, when we first get clean, especially, we put the work in, we get a little bit of clean time in, and we feel like, boom, like we should be welcomed back into society. Our families should forgive us and accept us. Our partners should be like excited for us. People should start to trust us again. And unfortunately, we learned throughout our recovery that there's a stigma attached to addiction and recovery, and that regardless of how much clean time a person has, it doesn't always equal to social acceptability. So I don't know if any of you have examples of this, and I know I have people on here who are not in recovery, and I appreciate you joining a live stream and listening, even if it's not something that's directly related to you. But I'm trying to see, yeah, I'm just making sure I'm still connected on everything. So yeah, I'm used to trivia where we have like a much more active chat, so it's weird for me. Hey CJ Kid, welcome. So I think a lot of times with stigma, we want people to accept us. Once we start working a recovery program, regardless of what recovery program it is, we stop using drugs and we're living a new way of life, right? So we're no longer controlled by the substances. And so we feel that because we're not living this dirty, degrading lifestyle anymore, that we should automatically be like accepted back into society, whether that society meaning like our families, our work, our spouse, whatever. And I think stigma plays a big role. I know I have seen a lot of examples where, and you hear people say it even though they may not mean it derogatory, like where they'll say something like, oh, well, they're just a drug addict, even though they may not have used drugs in a long time. So that stigma really does still exist. And it doesn't really matter how much clean time we have. That stigma's there. So I think people who have seen the videos since I started my channel know that one of the questions I have constantly been asking is, why is it that when we become an active member of recovery, we become very quiet about it? Why we kind of keep that to ourselves? And that's not everybody, but part of what I'm trying to do is with breaking the stigma of addiction and recovery is sharing about the fact that I am a recovering addict out loud. And I don't just do that online. I do that in real life too, because I think we need to show people that the face of addiction can be anybody, right? Like, I'm no different than any other drug addict. I just haven't used drugs in, 6.5 years. Let's see. Trial by Combat says, look beyond the material stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to rock a BMW, be making $300K a year. Yeah, well, exactly. So, there's this idea that social acceptability doesn't equal recovery. But there's also the flip side of that. As we said when I started this video, is that recovery doesn't necessarily equal social acceptability either. And that's because of stigma. So one of the things that I try to do, and I'm very active in conversations when people say things about drug addicts. Now, a lot of times people are talking about using drug addicts, but I think it's important we recognize that addiction is a disease and that it's a lifelong disease. So we can't talk about addicts as using addicts in they're just a drug addict, and not understand, we have to understand that drug addict type of mentality, you're technically classifying them in the same group as people who are drug addicts in recovery. So let's see. Trial by Combat says, but if I'm acting on defects of character and causing harm, that's not recovery. Exactly. Recovery is about a lifestyle, right? It's not just, you can be off drugs, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're living in recovery, right? Recovery is about trying to be a better person, learning how to manage problems in life without using drugs, right? A lot of us use drugs for lots of reasons. When we take away the drugs, we have to learn how to manage feelings and life like without them, and that's not always easy. I've been off coke and speed 20 years now, and I'm still not socially accepted. Look, some of us will never be socially accepted, right? But it's a matter of the fact that we don't want people to not accept us socially simply because we have a history with drugs. We don't see that with any other diseases, right? We don't see somebody battle through cancer and be in remission and we talk down to them like they've done something wrong. Like, we don't see people who have type 2 diabetes who have to take insulin for life and look at them like there's something wrong. But we do look at addicts in recovery as still being tainted in some way, when really they're doing everything they can on a day-to-day basis to combat a disease that they have no control over having. Do you accept, oh, wait, hold on. I wanted to ask, so even if you're in recovery, people will still think you're a druggie. So, Supernova, sometimes. The answer is sometimes. I have come across a lot of times where, because I have a history of addiction and people know that sometimes they still will assume bad actions. For example, like pharmacies are a great example of that. They see the medications you take, and sometimes if something comes up, like, you'll see the judgment. And it's like, look, I haven't taken pain medications for 6.5 years. So why are you giving me a hard time about some other random medication? Why are you looking at me that way? I'm trying to think of specific examples, but yes, we do still get that stigma. And I think that's why a lot of people in recovery don't openly talk about the fact that they're in recovery on a day-to-day basis, because they don't want to bring that stigma onto them. Like, would you go into your workplace and be like, hey, so I've been off drugs for the last 6.5 years? Most people would say, no, I don't want my job to know anything about my drug history. Well, why? I mean, I know why, but if you had cancer and it came up, you'd be like, oh, well, I've been in remission from cancer for 6.5 years. And people would be like, oh, that's wonderful, right? So why should we be ashamed to let people know we're in recovery? We're battling a disease. And if you've been in recovery for any length of time, it means you're doing the work. So Trial by Comment says, you accept yourself, Straight Talk. Straight Talk is awesome. She also has a YouTube channel, and she has written like poetry slams is the only way I can describe it, I guess. I don't know how she would describe it, where she talks about things in like a poetry slam style, which is fun to hear. She's definitely a unique lady, but it's why I love her. Let's see. So Supernova says, I manage my moods and smoke weed. Sorry, but weed is my go-to, and I like it, but I don't judge anyone that is in recovery or is doing hard drugs, but I don't enable them. Look, everybody's different, right? Like someone like me, I can't smoke weed because I know if I can convince myself, and I love weed, don't get me wrong, but if I smoke weed, even if it's just once in a while, I know I could convince myself that using my drug of choice every once in a while would be okay. And that's the difference between somebody who's like a social user versus someone who's an addict, right? Like, I don't have that cutoff switch. I don't have that part of my brain that says, smoking a little bit here and there or smoking for these reasons is fine, but I'm not going to do it all day long. I can't make that distinction, so I have to just say for myself, stay away from all substances because it's safer for me. Um, I love you too, CJ Kid, and oh, of course, straight talking for George Chick, I love you. So Deborah says, I disagree. Stigma is there for everything: mental illness, physical illness, race, and religion, and of course addiction. People always seem to judge. It's how we react that makes a difference. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Stigma is not just an addiction problem. We see stigma all over the place, right? Um, and then Try by Comment says, I'm pretty sure there are certain people I went to high school with that will steer clear of me even when I was on social media because of who I was. So here's the thing. Stigma does carry a weight with it with anything, right? There's stigma for everything. The reason I can't fight against stigma for other things, right? Like, I mean, I can, but it's not, don't get me wrong. You ask Trial by Combat. He knows me in real life. You can ask people who know me in real life. I'm like a natural born like protester, right? Like when I see an injustice, regardless, I show up. I was at the Women's March in DC the day after the election. I was at the airports with the Muslim ban, and that's just recent political stuff. But like, it also comes to the point where like, I protested my kid's bus stop one time because I didn't like that it was on a corner with no sidewalk, so I decided it was going to be on this corner, and I got all the parents in the neighborhood to like stand on this corner with me to like make a statement. So that's just who I am at heart. I stand up for injustice of all types. For me, because the stigma of addiction is costing lives and it's scaring people out of recovery, I feel very passionate about that particular topic. We could argue that race issues and stuff is also taking lives, and I'm not disagreeing with that in any way. I just know for me, I feel like fighting for those in recovery and for those suffering from addiction is a way that I can help save lives that are being lost needlessly. So again, it's not, I just want to be clear. I don't think a stigma of addiction is like the only stigma. It's just something that I feel like with the right education, it doesn't have to be there. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Hold on. Who else gonna go see them aliens? Yeah, when are they doing that? I saw that they're like storming Area 51. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I'd be interested to see. Supernova says, yes, I understand that, Jexy. I don't have that like you, and I'm so happy you were strong and been in recovery 6.5 years. Thank you. Thank you so much. Look, recovery is not always easy. It really isn't. Oh, I didn't know you had a political blog, Straight Talking for Chick. I am involved in politics and stuff like that too. I don't talk about those things on this channel for a reason. The reason I don't talk about controversial topics, hey Becky, welcome. The reason I don't talk about controversial topics like politics and stuff on this channel is because addiction affects people from every race, every social class, every political group, every nationality, right? And if I let too much of my personal feelings be known on specific topics, it may scare somebody away who may get a message from me simply because they don't believe we don't have the same views on other topics. Sorry. Excuse me. So I try really, really hard to keep the conversations here. Yeah, exactly. I never discuss religion or politics so everyone feels welcome, because the fact is that it's so easy, especially I can speak for myself. Like when I was in early recovery specifically, when I would go to like different types of meetings or talk with other recovering addicts, it was hard for me not to look at other people and be like, I'm not like them. I didn't do that drug. I didn't, have that experience. So how can I relate? What I've come to learn in recovery is that it's not the specifics like that keep us as having as being relatable. It's the feelings, right? The feelings I get when I use, the feelings I get when when I get off drugs and trying to live a life in recovery. Like, the feelings are the same. And so I don't know. Right now I think our the way people view addiction and recovery is there is some hope from it, right? Because today, when I tell somebody I have 6.5 years clean, even if it's like a complete stranger, they always respond positively. Congratulations, that's wonderful. Um, I am going to read something to you guys. It's a little long, but this was also sent to me. And let's see. I think Becky sent this to me too. Yes, she did. Okay. So I'm going to read this, and I want you guys to see. Yeah, exactly. There's no discrimination. So the same person who who responded to my tweet, who inspired this entire topic, sent this to me a week or two ago. And I've been a little off because I was getting off antidepressants that made me like really not well. I'm finally feeling better today. Yeah, I think today is like the first day I feel completely normal, which is great. But all right, so this is what Becky wrote. And I want you guys to listen to this. And I am going to post this up in other places because I think it's really important. Becky writes, "Hello, I'm Becky and I'm an addict. I'm the junkie you love to bash on social media when someone mentions addiction. I know it's hard to forgive and see past some of the things I've done in my active addiction, but I have a question for you. What is the worst thing you've ever done? Obviously, I won't get an answer to this, but please think it over. You know that one thing you hate you did? You don't even know why you went through with it? That thing that next to nobody knows about you? Well, what if everybody knew? What if for the rest of your life you were labeled by that one act that, given the chance, you'd erase from your story? That is what being an addict is like. Well, sort of. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe an addict is the worst thing a person can be. If I could rewrite my story and erase my active addiction, I probably would in a second. But I don't have that option, and since I've begun living a new way of life, I'm not convinced I would still jump at the chance. I can't do what you do and pretend it never happened. In order to ensure it never happens again, I have to work one day at a time, every day. If I don't, my disease will tell me I can have one drink or do one line and not fall back into active addiction, but I will. I will spend the rest of my life struggling to stay high or fighting to stay clean. Do you work hard to make sure your past mistakes don't repeat itself? Let me guess, you're thinking I chose to be an addict. I signed up for it because I picked up the drug. Yeah, today it is my choice to pick up drugs and use. It was a choice I made when I first tried them as well. It was the same damn choice you made as a teenager or a young adult, hanging out with your friends. You drank the same beer and liquor, smoked the same pot, and did the same line of powder at a party. You were able to walk away and not take it to the extreme. As a child, I didn't aspire to be an addict instead of a police officer. You don't witness children pretending their dolls and stuffed animals are dope sick. When's the last time you spoke to a little girl who told you she couldn't wait to grow up and turn tricks to feed the insatiable hunger of her drug addiction? My best friend didn't blow out the candles of her birthday cake as a child, wishing for substance abuse disorder because she couldn't wait for the day her children would go into foster care. Nobody wants this disease or chooses this disease. Some of us just have it. Remember, you made some of the same choices. You were lucky it was me and not you. If you still have doubts, take those up with the Center for Disease Control and the United States Surgeon General. They've classified addiction as a disease. I pray you don't have to evaluate your opinion because you discover your parent or child or someone you love as an addict. But if you do, just know we will welcome you and your loved one into our community. We will help you and your loved one understand and find a new way of life. Why would you do that, you'd ask? Because we're good people who just want the chance to live life like everybody else. Please, before you write another post or bash a suffering addict, think about who you're hurting. Not only are you adding to their suffering, you are hurting those who love them. There are people on your social media, people at your work, or a stranger at a restaurant who loves someone suffering from addiction right now. What they What have they done to deserve the awful things you've put out into the universe that do nothing but perpetuate hate and judgment? You're entitled to your opinion, but no matter what, unless you've educated yourself, hurting people with your words is wrong. So again, I'd like to thank Becky so much for sending that to me. I think it really brings up a lot in regards to good conversation. I am going, wow, there is so much craziness going on. Okay, so hold on one second. I'm going to go scroll back up. And let's see. Thank you. Vincent, I have no idea who you are or why you're so angry. I hope everything is okay with you. Yeah, we shouldn't have to use our past. Let's see. I think people do that. Even wearing glasses, they'll stigmatize you. Yes, exactly. That's kind of weird coming from you. I'm sorry, Bartman. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to catch up. Vincent, if you can do me a favor, I still have to scroll down. I don't particularly like to block people, and I would love for you to share your opinions on things, but I really don't like the hate, and this community really doesn't do well with hate. So I'm going to ask really, really nice if you can find a way to convey your opinions using kinder words, because I would hate to have to block somebody because I've never had to do it before. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want drama. It's not nice. Nobody likes it. What you did or do to me. Funny how you mention it now here. I'm so confused, Bartman. Deborah says, I've been sober for 11 years, sponsored many, and on the steering committee for 10 years on yearly AA convention, outspoken about my recovery at my job for 9 years. I think that's great. I'm very outspoken about my recovery as well. A new office manager came in and convinced everyone I was using and unstable, and it became toxic for me. Then I left my job after 9 years. My current job, I will never know I'm in recovery. See, that's the kind of stuff that gets me, you know? Like, why do people have to, yeah, I know I'm gonna have to put in a mod. But that's all right for now. Yeah, that's awful. Like, you really, it's so sad when people find out you're in recovery, and then, as I said, they use it against you, and not everybody does that, you know? The stigma only came out once on my channel when I was interviewed, talked about using during pregnancy. People aren't ready for certain realities. Yeah, unfortunately, addiction doesn't discriminate. And as much as you want to say, like, if you get pregnant, you're going to stop using, the disease doesn't work that way. And, like, I was lucky enough to say my addiction was not that bad, and I was able to not use or do anything like that when I was pregnant with my kids. But I know a lot of people who struggled. They don't want to use pregnant. They just don't know how to stop. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you too, Deborah. I don't agree with them, and I can understand why they get mad at things like that. Absolutely. Yeah, my rule is generally no drama. I literally have, like, never banned anybody on this channel. As you can see, I don't even have any mods, as people people are pointing out. So I definitely don't, I haven't had a need to kick anybody, and I would like to never have to, you know? Oh, okay. As long as Bart is if you know who he is, he's not being bad. No, you're fine, Bart. As long as she knows you're talking to her, we're cool. I have no problem with that at all. Let's see. Becky says, you're totally welcome. I'll admit it was a bit bitter when I wrote that, basically off 6 years in August, but I kept getting turned down for jobs because of my criminal history. Yeah, it's really, really, it's tough, you know? Like, nobody wants to feel like they're being judged based on things they did years ago, you know? I'm not sure what he's talking about. If it's directed at me, I'm so used to it. I'm so, you know, look, everybody, it's one of the reasons I don't ban people and I haven't had to block people. I haven't even, as you said, I haven't even had to put mods in because, frankly, like, I try to tell people that if they have bad things to say, like, they're welcome here as long as they use nicer language. I don't like drama, and, like, when we do trivia, like, there's a no drama rule because I have people from all different areas of the internet, like, coming in and having discussions, right? So I want people to feel welcome and loved regardless of where they come from, and I've been really lucky that, like, people who come in, I've had people who follow me now who, like, play trivia with us, who started off as trolling, right? Like, who came in and said some really awful things, and I was like, look, we love you, just use better language, and they hung around, and now they play trivia every week, you know? So I don't automatically, you know, go to, you know, making people be upset. Let's see. It really messed me up. I stay home. I don't go to AA anymore. I was so hurt, and I begged them to test me. I'm still clean, but no serenity. Deborah, it hurts my heart to hear that because it's not an uncommon story. That's what I meant, like when I was talking earlier about, like, it doesn't matter what our past is, right? Like, we can be clean for so many years, and sometimes it doesn't matter. All somebody has to do sometimes is hint of the fact that maybe we're using again. And for some reason, because we have addiction, even if it's been a decade since we've used any type of drug, our credibility is always like, you know, people look at it as like, well, who are we going to believe? The person who doesn't use drugs or the person who used to use drugs, And it's tough. And it's exactly why I'm working really, really hard. Like, my goal is not just to break the stigma of addiction. I want to break the stigma of recovery. I want people to I want people to be proud to say out loud, like, hey, I'm in recovery. I don't use drugs anymore. I have an addiction problem, but I'm living day to day in recovery. I want people to be able to be proud of that and not have to feel like they have to keep it a secret in order to protect themselves. Because right now, a lot of people keep it secretive to protect themselves. And I get it. Like, I do. I see it all the time. But, like, I try to imagine a world where that didn't have to happen? I'm glad you have a stand, Supernova. You know what? As I said, I love when people come around and, as I said, as long as somebody knows they're not like trying to cause trouble or anything, then I'm all for it. We have fun here. It's all good. Um what my breaking point is, what it would get to get blocked. Look, I don't like people who are cruel, and not so much cruel to me, but like especially cruel to people in the comments, right? Like, one of the things I like about all the comments and the chat that we have here is it's really loving and supportive. And we don't always agree. We have had lots of people in here who have had completely different perspectives on things than I do. And I welcome that. I don't just want people in here who agree with my way of thinking, right? I want us to be able to have a dialogue, to really talk about these issues. I don't want people to be like, well, if I disagree with them, then I'm going to block them. Like, no, we should have recovery is not one size fits all. People's experience are not the same. I want people to feel like they can come and share their experience and what works for them without being worried about getting blocked. Like, I don't know, I'm not really about the whole blocking thing, and I really would hate to see like what it would take for me to feel like I had to put in mods and start blocking people. Like, I hope it doesn't get to that point, but let's see. Oh, straight talking for Dorchick. A stan is like a crazy fan. If you want to understand it, it's an Eminem song called Stan, where he wrote a song about having like a super obsessed fan. So now that's a term that's used to describe like a super fan. Yeah, we do recover. I've always been proud of my recovery and I want to tell people, but I'm too afraid of being judged. Yeah, look, again, nobody wants to be judged for their journey in recovery. It's as I said, my goal on this channel was not just to be a voice for people who are suffering from addiction, but to be a voice for those people living day to day in recovery who are not able to talk about it. Like, for example, I have friends who are nurses who are in recovery, who have an amazing recovery program, who can really help people. But they have to keep it very secretive. They have to be if they want to go to like a recovery meeting, they have to go to like obscure places so that they're not recognized, because they would lose their jobs. And I feel like, imagine, okay, look at this. Hear me out here. Imagine if those nurses, right, who are in recovery told their employers that they were in recovery. So that when someone comes into the emergency room who's clearly an addict, perhaps those are the nurses that they should send in to talk to them, right? They don't even have to hire additional staff to deal with them. You send in someone in recovery who can manage, right? Or let's say you have somebody who you suspect is pill seeking, right? And they're coming to the ER because of pain. Maybe send one of your nurses in recovery, because we can kind of smell our own sometimes. All I'm saying is that so much good can come from being vocal about being in recovery if people were accepting of people being in recovery. Let's see. Trial by Combat says, look, some people would just think that we're losers at our core and I just have to accept that. See, I refuse to accept that. I do. I refuse to accept it. And I'm okay with people judging me. I'm really okay with it because I've also been very vocal in the community, online, all over the place. I've had to do presentations for police departments, for schools, for town hall meetings where I have to stand up and be like, "Hey, I'm Jexie and I'm an addict." Um, so usually most people in my life know I am a drug addict in recovery. So I haven't had to, although I've dealt with the stigma in some places, I'm comfortable voicing how I feel in a way that I try to get people to understand as opposed to like being offended. But not everybody has the opportunity to have that voice. And like that's what I'm hoping we can change. Deborah says, I did so much for people and I worked with homeless, getting them in recovery, but I made no friends, just service work, only asking for service work for me. And then the job just made me feel worse. And now I hate being addicted to anything. Oh, you're not being whiny at all, Deborah. Look, I think it's important that we share our experiences and our struggles because my guess is you're not the only one who's had them. Kid says, I struggle with 12-step meetings. They aren't as forthcoming as they pretend to be honest. I would say it depends on where you go. So I am somebody who is fairly active in a 12-step program, and I have been to 12-step recovery programs up and down the East Coast, and they're not all the same. The way that I would manage 12-step recovery programs in a way to make them more open is I've gotten involved and I've changed things from the inside out. I've helped make people feel welcome in a way that I maybe felt judged at other places. I do what I can in the little universe I have. So one of the 12-step meetings I do go to, it's very, very welcoming, and you'll find we have a really high attendance and there's a lot of newcomers because I do my best to try to make everybody feel like there's hope. So what you guys hear me share here, like I do in real life, but I have heard 12-step meetings aren't for everybody. They're not, and I wish I could say they are. I've seen them work for a lot of people, but everybody needs to find what works for them in recovery. And I would never judge anybody, even if you're like, I hate them. I'm not going to sit here and convince you that you should use them, right? Like, they work for me, but that doesn't mean they're going to work for everybody. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's hard to get plugged in when people are social club or people in cliques are on their phone. And that is a meeting by meeting thing sometimes. Sometimes it's not. I try really hard in the ones that I go to ensure that that stuff doesn't happen. But, people are people. But as long as you have a recovery program in some way that's working for you, that's keeping you clean, then like that's what you should keep doing. And that goes for anybody. If you're feeling like you're living life in a really positive way and you're working in your recovery in whatever way you're working at it, then who's anybody to tell you you're doing it wrong? Okay, sorry. I'm just making sure I'm not missing things. I have to scroll up a little bit. Yeah, a lot of people don't like 12-step meetings. I love them. But again, that's just me, and that's okay. Like this channel is not about 12-step recovery. This channel is about recovery in general. Becky says the medical field is so unforgiving when honestly they should understand. Exactly. I had patients that I literally confronted a doctor for overprescribing. I had to take him into a room and tell him my own story. Yeah, like it's crazy. You think that doctors and hospitals and stuff that they should know more about addiction than anybody else and should be way more accepting of recovery. He gave her prescriptions for 3 months. That's crazy. Bartman says, I appreciate you and your vids. I'm here for your recovery talk. I'm not Nova Stan at all. I had no idea she was here. Well, I am very glad you're here, Bartman. Yeah. Bartman, I am very glad you're here. Thank you so much for your support. I'm happy you're joining our conversation. I lost. Oh my gosh. There's so much here. I want to keep up with the conversation. Yeah, I have seen some meetings that are very clicky. They're not all that way, but I have seen it is all, and it can be awkward. I can say I'm a visitor. I went to like 15 groups and said I'm new here. No one introduced themselves to me, and they just run in social circles. CJ Kid, I can tell you with 100% certainty, if you came to a meeting in my area, that would never happen. It just wouldn't. I'm like a super crazy advocate about shit like that, because that was my experience at the very first meeting I went to. It was exactly like that. And I sat in the back of the room and I cried and cried and cried. And nobody came up to me and nobody talked to me after. And I hated it. So I make sure that the meetings that I'm a part of today, that's not the experience other newcomers have. And, that's really the only way I can change something like that, But I try to remember people are people, but the programs are decent. I've done recovery on my own and kept things inside alone for a long time, and it's very normal to keep things inside. Yeah, a lot of us keep things inside. It's not easy to be like, here's how I feel about everything. Let me share my most vulnerable, intimate stuff with you, It's not something a lot of people are comfortable doing. I try to do that here so that it inspires other people to feel comfortable talking to me. Let's see. To be honest, I don't know how I would act not being high. Maybe I would be more irritated. I don't know, but I love watching people recover. Well, I'm glad that you watch us recover, Supernova. Yeah, I don't know if I'm in New Jersey. I went to meetings in Maryland in a very small area that was much more cliquey. People were very welcoming, but it was more cliquey. Where I am in New Jersey, it's not that way. People are super crazy welcoming to newcomers, and it's an older area. They have a lot more people with more time. It's different up here. So I definitely think it's an area thing. Oh yes. If you could like up the stream, that would be great. And yes, I do have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting. I don't offer a whole lot of stuff on there. I'm just being honest. I do upload a couple of like short videos about what's going on with the channel or stuff. Really, my Patreon is just a way to support what I'm doing on this channel in spreading a message of recovery. I don't have like perks and prizes and stuff. I mean, besides maybe giving you guys extra of my time. But like I appreciate, I do have patrons who support me, and I am so grateful for that. I like being able to do this, and I want to be able to do this more. And obviously, the more financial support I have, the more I can do with promoting recovery. It's just, it just means I can spend more time. So thank you guys for that. Thank you, Straight Talking Fedora, for giving it a like. Trial by Combat says, in my experience, I've attended meetings that range from being chock full of recovery all the way to meetings where they should be playing circus music. Yes, I agree. CJ Kid says, anyone struggling, the best thing to do is to show up early. There will be like 5 people there to talk to. Seems to be the only way to catch someone outside a clique. I agree with that, actually. One of the best things to do, sorry, I'm sunburned real bad, so I keep having to shift my positions. One of the best things to do is to show up to a meeting early. You'll find the people there who are during service are generally, the people making the coffee and opening the doors. They're generally going to be the most welcoming people you meet at a meeting. So that is a really great suggestion. If you're going to go to a meeting, go early. I cried and cried and they all came up to me and I hated it. Aw. Look, better than being ignored though, right? CJ Kid, you want to be a patron? You can absolutely be a patron. I would welcome your support any day of the week. Supernova can share the links. If not, I don't think it's in my live stream, but it's in the description of like every video I have. It just automatically plugs it in. Let's see. Becky says, I'm socially awkward too, so I get it. If you're ever in Maryland near DC, you got someone to hit a meeting with. I absolutely will, Becky. How far are you from Calvert County? That's where I was living. I don't live there now, but I was living in Calvert County. Yes, our area does rock Trial by Combat. Trial by Combat and I live. Trial by Combat's my boyfriend, if you guys didn't already know that. Those who play trivia already know, because he usually comes on trivia and gives me a really hard time about things. But, yeah. I'm in Maryland. That's awesome. Also, I'm from PA, so I've done meetings in larger areas and smaller areas. Yeah, exactly. Bartman says, I'm in New York City. A lot of the recovery places are surrounded around religion. I like that feeling. I just like it when it's overbearing. Yeah, I think religion, some people like Celebrate Recovery is a program. If you're into the religion, right? If like religion, especially Christianity, is something that's really important to you, and you like the idea of the 12 steps, then a program like Celebrate Recovery would be great, right? They have recovery for literally like any type of thing you want, right? There's so many different programs out there. Oh, I'm sorry it's not working. It's weird. The only people that really troll me are 12-step members. Never get trolled by addicts via text. That's funny that like you get trolled by 12-step members. So because I am a member of a 12-step program, and hey Stacy, welcome. And I have a YouTube channel, and I'm a big believer in, like, I don't want to cross any lines. Where are you? Oh, Montgomery. That's not too far from where I was. I actually drove through Montgomery County today. So I do a I I try really hard not to talk about or promote any one recovery program on this channel, even if there's one that I think, like that I would in real life. But on this channel, I want to be really open about the fact that recovery comes in all different forms, and you know sometimes it's fun to like pick and choose parts of different programs, right? Like there's people who are on medically assisted treatment who also do 12-step programs, right? Like there's a lot of ways to do recovery, and you got to find what works for you and what makes you feel like you are getting better, circus music, in case if you're curious. Yeah, I knew what you meant. So let's see. So I think, can somebody tell me? I feel like I have been on the stream for 45 minutes now. So I am going to end it here. I feel like we've had a really, really good conversation. I also, since I fixed my lagging issues, though now I feel bad that we're leaving when Stacy finally gets to come. um, I am really, really excited that I finally fixed these lagging issues. So again, for those of you, I'm sorry, Stacy. For those of you who missed it, don't worry. I'm codependent. Don't go. Oh, CJ Kid. All right, how about this? I'll stay on for 5 more minutes just because I love you guys. um, of course, Deborah, you can always vent here. Look, one of the things that I try really hard to do here is, I want people to feel like they can really talk about what they're going through and get some hope that they're not alone. Recovery can be hard. Some days it's not so hard, and some days it's really, really hard. I had one of those days today that, like, recovery was pretty good, right? Like, nothing major. Like, I had to drive to Virginia and back today, so I didn't really have a lot going on, and I get to talk to you guys, which always makes my day. CJ Kid, OMG. I would love to collab. I would absolutely love to collab. DM me and I'll send you my phone number and we can work something out, cuz that would be amazing. You're like one of my favorite recovery channels on this platform. So that would be See, now I'm so excited. You guys are awesome. If you guys don't know, CJ Kid is like an awesome recovery YouTuber. If you aren't subscribed to his channel and you like recovery related stuff, like go subscribe to him now. Let's see. Yes, please like up the stream. If you, my Twitter name, my Instagram name, it's all the same. It's all according to Jexy. I made it easy. My Patreon's according to Jexy, so if you can't find the link, you probably can just type in the name. Oh, I'm sorry that you're recovering from a death, Stacy. That's tough. Grief is hard. Grief is a whole different level of tough, and I'm sorry that you're having to experience that. It's hard. Grief is hard. Grief is something that even in recovery we deal with a lot. So I can empathize. We're here for you. If there's anything I can do to help, I will, but I know it's usually just a time thing. Yeah, he is really, really good. Yeah, I think it would be so fun to do a collab with CJ Kid. I would be really excited by that. Yeah, him and Driven Industries have done collabs before, which have been and not really what I would do, but they're a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, stay up all night and watch his channel. It's great. Let's see. Yeah, Stacy, sending you tons and tons of love. Yeah. No, look, everybody needs something that's gonna keep them feeling good, and I'm glad that you have partners, and I'm glad that you have religion, and I'm glad you have these things, Stacy, to help you get through, and of course I'm always here to listen. But yeah, so again, I don't know if I ever finished the sentence. Aw, thank you, Stacey. I'm glad you feel that way. I look, just so you guys know, I don't know if anybody else does this, but if you first of all, I answer every comment I get, even ones from trolls, believe it or not. You can look. I don't delete comments. I answer them all. Even the comment where somebody said I looked like a good-looking man. Now he comes and plays trivia. You know who you are. But if you want to DM me ever on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, I answer everybody. I am honored that you guys would take the time out to even respond to anything I'm doing or saying or whatever. So I always respond. Again, if you want to support me on my Patreon, that would be incredible. I am a single mom with 2 kids. I'm like an only mom, only parent with 2 kids. And I really want to spend as much time as I can really helping people with addiction and recovery. So that's a great way to help. Just watching my videos and liking them, that's awesome. But let's see. Yes, he does play trivia and he apologized. Supernova knows who I'm talking about. Look, no, don't worry. Aw, thank you, CJ Kid. I appreciate that. Look, I would never make people feel pressured into to supporting the channel financially. I'm I struggle. Like, I got single mom struggles all day. So there's a lot of creators I would love to support financially that I just can't. I give super chats when I can. But otherwise, you know, but yeah, thank you guys. You guys are the best. You made my whole night. So, all right, I'm gonna go on a high note. Now that you guys are all telling me I'm attractive and I'm pretty, that makes my you guys have no idea. Half the time I feel so old. So hearing that makes my whole night. So I'm gonna get off now while I'm riding high on all the compliments. You guys are absolutely amazing. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you guys have a great night. And again, reach out anytime. And I look forward to hearing from you, CJ Kid. I really do want to collab. That's something I was hoping from the beginning of when I started this channel. I was like, maybe one day. That was my, you've made it when CJ Kid wants to collab. So yes, I'm thrilled about that. I love you guys. Mwah. Have a great night and come play trivia tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be super fun. So I hope to see you there. Bye, everybody.